Hi, good afternoon from Marianna, Wow Women of Worth, for another episode of Wow Voices Speak Volumes. And here we are today with Nick Viney. Good afternoon, Nick. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here, Mariana.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Normally, we are having every Thursday our episode, but I really didn't want to miss you today because tomorrow, unfortunately, you were unavailable. So I said, okay, let's do on the Wednesday. And here we are. So, Nick, who are you really?
So I consider myself, I'm an artist and I'm a landscape reimagineer. So what I'm trying to do is take we've become very used to the look of our landscape, our countryside, and we've become very conditioned to see that in a certain way, and that's not necessarily its best self or its healthiest self. So I try and help people, especially landowners, reimagine their land towards a much more abundant state, and with that you tend to get a much more beautiful state.
Oh, wow. So, and where is coming from? What is your background and why are you doing what you're doing now?
Okay, so I come from a conventional farming background, so pretty much just like you see around. And but I also had quite an artistic streak, so I was able to. My mother sort of encouraged that, and she's very creative. And through my life, I've been able to function as an artist, and whilst farming on the edge of Dartmoor, which is the far southwest of the UK. And at various times through my life, I've sort of slightly clashed with my peers and my kind of locality, because I wasn't necessarily aligned with how things were done and what has been normalized in farming, whether that's animal welfare or literally how we treat the land. So farming is a layer that we put on top of land. It's our human construct, and we really shape and modify land. So it's important when you look at a landscape to understand actually how does this landscape want to be, and what is that human layer that we've put over it. And obviously we've got to eat, and there's a lot of people to feed, so we then have to work out how do we blend farming with nature, because without nature we don't have food security. So there's lots of complex issues going on at the moment. And I feel actually there's a very powerful role for women in how we achieve regeneration.
Oh, wow, this is absolutely inspiring. But before we talk about the future, I would like to be a little bit more about, our what is the farming really. You're talking about conventional farming. So, what is the conventional farming, and how is it evolving this process?
Okay, so basically, since during the Second World War, we had companies that were making the bombs, okay, making the munitions, and at the end of the Second World War, then those companies had to. They didn't have any work. They didn't have any buyers for what they were producing, so they had to pivot. And some of the scientists realized that if you put some of these nitrogens and phosphates onto land, you have this land reacts in a way, and you get this pulse of vegetation. And so this was considered, and was at the time, we're now post-war, and you have a hungry nation. This was seen as a fantastic help to fertility. What we didn't know at the time was the damage that did or was doing to soil health. And soil health is something that we don't really consider much, but if you imagine we have the earth, you know, the earth, and soil is like the skin around the earth and the biome. So just like we try and look after our own biome, our own gut biome, with our healthy bacteria, and through good food and nutrition. The soil is the biome of the earth. So when those chemicals got switched from making bombs to what we understand now as chemical fertilizer, that started taking a toll on the health of soil. And what it's now meant, you know, 50, 60 years on, is that we have a very depleted soil. And that can do everything from affect our own health. So the chemicals that are used are going through us, but also it literally affects the weather, because we don't the earth can't operate in the way with its normal mechanisms of trees and many layers of vegetation, which enables its cooling process. We've actually kind of we've affected the weather. So we've created a sort of a burnout cycle, and we're in we proliferate that with the way we farm, so in a conventional sense. And what I'm really interested in is the solution to that, and it's actually really exciting. That bit was all very doom and gloom, and I apologize for that, but that's where we're at. But the good news is we have solutions to that, and the solutions are found on the ground and through regenerative farming. And so that's why it's really important to reach farmers and reach landowners, and help them make this transition. So yeah, so that's really my drive, and I try and use art to deliver that as in a kind of form of non-violent communication, because my job, I see as an artist, is to distill complex messages and then deliver them in a way that is non-threatening and non-violent, and allows the viewer to have those penny dropping moments that they need, but in their own time and in their own way. Because these sorts of transitions is very just being told what to do doesn't reach the value centers in our brains, the reward centers in our brains, to create a wholehearted transition. So I'm very interested in that, as a people, as you know, to feel the actual positivity now in this change.
This is amazing, because when we talk about farm, as you said, in a conventional way, we're thinking about people that work in the land. They have the love for the land to produce, but we're thinking that it's just manual, in the sense that working hard, being there and pick up the fruits, working with the animals and so on, in order to serve others. A sort of slavery in a way, thinking of the fact that is a hard work. So people that they have no other choices, they work the land. And I think it's very honorable work instead, because you were talking about the health. And while you were talking about it, remind me how, for example, the body of woman after gives birth needs time to recover, and bombarded with the hormones or stuff like that, needs to release all that in order to be able to, first of all, be healthy, and then maybe conceive a new child. And this is exactly what I guess is happening in nature. So because you're talking about earth to me is the mother, is the one that is giving us really all the nurturing us in order to grow. And I love your approach talking about art, the way how to communicate it, because I think the humans, even if we are humans, means that we are made of flesh. We should look after the place and the environment we live in. Actually, we are deteriorating, and actually we are not human anymore. Actually, we are killers there in that respect. What do you think should be also the approach? Because it looks like it's on the farmer responsibility to try to make sure that the earth is healthy and look after. What would it be also from the consumer's point of view? Is a way how also we can contribute to make the ecosystem more sustainable and more eco-friendly and more human in the respect?
Yeah, so it's actually really tricky. Let's come back to the responsibility of the landowner. We'll come back to that in a sec. We'll park that because that is a big deal. As a consumer, it's actually really difficult, because if you wanted to go out and buy food that was produced from a regenerative by regenerative means, then it's very hard for you to do that at the moment, because because of the scale, basically. So in the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture, which I'm part of, you know, we have farmers throughout Europe, but it's not scaling, and so you can't go into your supermarket necessarily and buy food that is produced in a regenerative way. Now, regenerative is beyond organic. We might see a label that says bio, or which is organic over here, and think that this is ticking all the boxes. Unfortunately, it's not. It's a lot better. They've stopped using the chemicals, but they're having to use other means to produce that yield, and this in itself is a complex. There are complex reasons why the land is being treated in this way. So you spoke about this kind of hard work, hard labor of the field workers, and it absolutely is. But most farms, and this is very dependent on where you are geographically, but if we look to the UK, most farms are being run by one or two people and big machines. So consequently, what's happened when we use these big machines is, if you're driving a big tractor, you can't go around lots of wiggly lines. You have to work in straight lines. If you turn lots of corners, you're burning more fuel. So the landscape then has been shaped by machine, and those machines have been bought through a credit system. So that apparently there hasn't been a new tractor bought with cash money since the 1970s. So actually what is driving agriculture behind is a credit system. So this really manipulates what we're seeing, and what we're seeing enacted on the land. So it's not as simple as us deciding as a consumer, I want to eat food that is produced regeneratively, because where is it? How do we get to it? And so this is the thing that we'll be talking about. This is on Friday when I go to London, and we talk in the food tank. We are talking systemic problems. So how do we unpick all these different things and create a brighter future? And this is something that is very very present and looming. If you think back to COVID and where you were at in COVID, and 2 weeks into COVID, what was that supermarket looking like? So here in the UK, we have a very fragile food system. We're talking days, we're talking less than 2 weeks. So if something serious happens, like COVID, like an energy lockdown, like no fossil fuels in terms of transport, we're stuffed. So and people get understandably very panicky very quickly when certain key things are removed from their daily life, whether that's fuel, food, clean water, whatever it is. So my drive and where what I'm trying to get us into a place is that wherever we live, we know where a certain amount of our food is coming from. Certainly, a survivable amount of our food is coming from. So this is different in urban situations, but say in a more rural situation or small town situation, I believe that we should know what this farmer, what this field is doing over here, what that farmer over there is doing. And I work in film as well, and what I want to do is try and help connect local food with local people through just a little farm. It's called it's a little film. It's called Film to Fork, and we have an app, and we then we are then connected to our community through the food web.
Well, this is something that is very touching in the sense that, as you said, knowing that if there is anything is happening out there in the UK, basically we can panic because there is the risk of not being having food. That is really scary. But what is then the amount of production that UK is able to provide for the country? How much you in the UK?
We're a bit less than 50%. So we rely heavily on inputs. It's about 48-50%. But that would be in a very that would be in a modified or restricted way. You can imagine we don't grow avocados here. We don't grow citrus fruits here. We are very good at other things, and we have a high rainfall, so we can grow a phenomenal amount of grass and a phenomenal amount of trees. And so when we hear about local food, we're that often is hand in hand with shifting the way we food. So different cultures grow up with different foods, and those foods are the ones that grow well in their landscape. So in the UK, we have to have a much better understanding of what those foods look and taste like, and how we can do beautiful things with those food. It's not about austerity. It's about tuning into the nature that is absolutely on your doorstep.
Oh wow! So you are telling me that tomorrow you are going to be a speaker for this event, and what is your contribution? What are you going to talk about, and what is your experience that you're bringing to the table?
Yeah, so so we're in Regen House in the Ministry of Sound, and at the food tank, talking about regenerative food systems. And my role will be talking about my own personal transition from conventional agriculture to regenerative agriculture, but really the role of imagination in this, and how imagination is such a powerful tool. And it's very, very hard for people who have only known and seen one way of doing things, and the landscape around them has been completely normalized. And part of what I do then is to reimagine that and say, well, actually, the way this hill is, the way the water would like to move on this hill gives you opportunities to create ponds here. If you had trees here, you could create shelter, you could create shade, you could grow fruit from these trees. So just kind of reading the landscape and helping landowners kind of reimagine that in a much more abundant way, because really what we've become very used to, especially in the UK, and perhaps not so much where you are, but we tend to only grow on one layer. So we might grow grass on that layer, and then we might graze animals on that grass. So say that's 2 layers. There's 7 different layers that we could be growing on simultaneously. Okay, so it's all the different shrub layers, up to the tree layers, up to the vines that go around those trees. So when you bring in all these different ways of growing, then you have abundance. Then you have a really incredibly fruitful landscape, and with that comes nature. So we address the biodiversity crisis at the same time. So what I'm talking about is nature-based solutions, and there are, nature had this covered for many millions of years, and it's actually our actions that have undone that and massively contributed to the climate issues that we're facing. I'm particularly interested in flooding, and if we go back to the soil health comments from the earlier in the conversation, it is soil health. Soil and water work in a duet. Okay, so soil is the filtering of water, is the slowing down of water, and what water needs to do is when it falls out the sky, it needs to hit it needs to have a soft landing and be able to be absorbed into the soil and be filtered and purified, and then rest in the aquifers. And then gradually come up again out of the springs, and this is how we have clean water. So soil and water work in this beautiful, incredible duet.
I love it. I love it. And you are talking about the different layers, and definitely this is what it creates an ecosystem in order to have all the part together in order to be abundant, as you were saying. So now in this filming, I'm so curious because I'm doing communication, so I love everything about documentaries, the filming, and sharing the knowledge. So let me know a little bit more about you said farm to flood, something like that?
Yeah, so farming the flood. So in the UK, we're looking at 40% increase in the flows in our rivers. Okay, up to, before within the next 50, 80 years. Okay, so 50%. This is a big deal, and we're already seeing a lot of flooding in the UK and globally, and this is because we've lost this connection, this safe connection between water and soil. So farming the flood is a documentary that I wrote a long time ago, 7 years ago, when I was really when I first kind of got my thoughts in a in some sort of a semblance, but it's taken 7 years to get it fully funded, and so now it's on release in the UK, and it was funded by the Environment Agency, our Environment Agency. So and it's used as a tool to help farmers see the different nature-based solutions and help inform the public on how we could be working as landowners, and really how beneficial that is then to biodiversity. So that's Farming the Flood, and is on YouTube now. Anyone can see that on YouTube. And what I'm now working on is Film to Fork, which takes a little kind of a little tiny documentary of each farm and what they do and the good stuff that they produce, and then we lock that into an app and into the existing food web, so that you can go on your phone and you can see the food around you, and you can see the people that are producing it, and you can have a look at their story, and if you like their story and you want to connect them, then that helps that connection. So yeah, that's how I'm kind of working using my creativity at the moment.
Nice. So in the documentary, what you going to go to farms? You talk with farmers. How is made? What is the way how you envisage that?
Yeah, so Farming the Flood was a documentary on these nature-based solutions. Film to Fork will be exactly that. I will go and make a mini documentary of what the actual work at the moment is the background work. So it's creating a template that hits the marks for everything a consumer would like to know about this farm, and then parceling that up in a way that that is a very, is a quick, informative watch that hits the marks for the consumer, and helps make that connection for, between the consumer and the farmer, because this is obviously a huge part of our food system. As a consumer, we are way away from our farmers, and the cows that you see, or the sheep that you see, or the vegetables that you see growing maybe local to you, you may never have any contact with those. If they are essentially a commodity, and a commodity means it's we're so distanced from that, and it means if 100, 200 miles away it's 10 pence more a kilo, then that is where that commodity is going to go. So we lose our connection to what is called our bioregion, and until we start operating within our bioregions, we are almost enslaved to many other things, whether that's the fossil fuels that bring our food to us, or the sort of 4 or 5 big supermarket chains that really control how we eat. So it's a really, there's a lot of excitement really, and fun around, because when you lock into local food, you're dealing with all the good bacteria that are in the soil around you, and that is immediately beneficial to you. We've not only have we kind of taken our hands out of the soil because we do other kinds of work, and there are in fact bacteria that when you put your hands in soil, in healthy soil, you have an endorphin release, you have a release of oxytocin, because these bacteria are so linked to us. So it's really important to try and get that connection back in whatever way you can, and that can be on a really small scale if you don't have access to land. It can just be your house plants, it can be a tiny box that you just grow something, even if it's just salad, in your own home, but that connection to soil, because we cannot think of ourselves as separate to nature. So therefore our evolution, our very core, is craving these things that we have removed from our lives at a very, very basic level.
Yeah, I also think we're talking about the pharma as a job in a conventional way, but it's not only the manual work. Now, as you said, we need to. There is a technology is helping to deliver the work. But in the meantime, as you said, we need to make sure that is also in equilibrium with the nature, in order not to stress the nature. But in the meantime, you need to have a lot of knowledge in terms of how to deal with the nature. You are talking to me about the bacteria, stuff like that. So it's no longer a job that is a job or an activity that you can improvise. It's really a lot of responsibility towards the nature itself, and of course the people that are eating the food. So I think it's are really fascinated about you as a woman working in this field, and combining the beauty of the nature itself with the art, because is as you said, softening and harder work in a way that is reaching out more people and in a simpler way. And to me is really fascinating in generally speaking, but it's very inspiring because it must be passion for that and must be really hard work at thinking how to put together two things in order to deliver for the consumer in a way where is delivered with health and love for sure. So that's really, really interesting. Today we published a post where you were, I asked the permission if I could post you doing your painting. Can you tell me more? What is that about? What were you painting?
Okay, so the clip that you've got there is so I like to do this show. So it's a it's a spoken show, but I'm live painting at the same time. So the little clip you've got there is me training. So I have to do a painting like that, a big painting like that, in an hour. And I have to, and I need to narrate that at the same time and explain what it is I'm trying to explain. And that might be different things, but usually, for me, it will be nature recovery. And I'll link to that. So yeah, that's the show, painting the world a better place. So that's like a short show, which I'm working on, just trying to get in front of as many people as I can. And yeah, and also the interesting thing about painting and landscape recovery is when you're building up a painting, you can't just go straight. So imagine when you're building up a painting, you have to do the background first, right? You have to do the layers. You have to build up to your finished piece. And it's the same in landscape recovery. You have to sort out the soil first. And so this is your background and your base layer. And then you start having to layer up. So one of the things I say is I want eagles back. I want eagles by the time I'm 80 here. So in this landscape here on the edge of Dartmoor, we had eagles here 100 years ago until we shot the last one. And I want eagles back. I want my kids to see eagles. I want my grandkids to be able to see eagles. It's just when you've got top predators like that in the system, whether it's eagles, whether it's wolves, bears, when your landscape and your society can sustain those animals, then you have functioning ecosystems. So that means the health of that system is much better, because the other animals in that system behave how they are supposed to behave, whether that's grazers. They think the wildebeest, they move very tightly, they arrive in a landscape and they eat, and the predators are circling around them, so they're jostling, which is like a massage for the land, like this sports massage that is very intense. And then the predators close in and take somebody, and then the whole herd moves off, and that land gets rested then for however long, 6 months, maybe a year. And that is how you build back this incredible biodiversity and all these different plants and animals that should be in that system. I can't remember where we were going with that.
No, I was fascinated and followed it, honestly. It was so fascinating. The only thing I was, coming up to my mind, so is the fact that you talk about connection. So we talk about mother and the fruit, which are their children, her children. But in that respect, then how much do you have time for yourself to disconnect, to have holidays and go somewhere else, or you are always attached to your land?
I'm very attached to my land, and I'm lucky to be back on the farm that I grew up on as a kid. So I've seen this land change, and that is an incredible privilege for me. And you've mentioned the word responsibility a couple of times, and this is something that I'm increasingly aware of. My responsibility as a landowner. For a start, how can you own land? how can you own land? It's just a construct, you know. We just happen to obey the rules. I say, get off my land, and so that's just a construct. How do you own land? How do you own air? How do you own water? You can't. These are things in common. So therefore, if in this construct I own this land, then nothing happens in isolation in nature, in the environment. Nothing. You can't do something here and not expect it to have a knock-on effect right through this bioregion. So responsibility is something that I think we have to take very seriously. Responsibility, privilege. I am incredibly privileged to be able to grow food here, to share food here, to have I can't see this, but like sheepskins, you know, these incredible fibers that you know we can produce off this land here, and that is something that I feel we've lost sight of, and really something that why I want the wilder element that I'm trying to create, the women's element, is because women are leading. The good news is women are leading regeneration globally. That is for sure. Possibly less so in the UK, but certainly so Wilder, my women's intuitive landscape design and environmental regeneration is landscape recovery through feminine principles. So it is, like you were saying, it's much softer, it's more nurturing, it's tuning in to nature and understanding how when you work with nature, your actual your yield in a much more kind of global sense is far greater, because you are not setting up problems further down the line. Every time you're working against nature, you're setting you may have a short-term feel good, but actually if you're trying to do something in terms for future generations, you're wearing things out. So you know, that is where I feel like there is a huge responsibility when it comes to land ownership.
Amazing. And also, you know, I see how much you work from on the back end and how much you are on the front line also to spread the word. And what is on the pipeline now for you? So you are very active. So let me understand. I know that you are working on a system to try to help women to do so, correct? So
yeah, so I'm trying to build a community of women to support women who are maybe they're a new entrance into land. Maybe they've always wanted a piece of land and it's like a dream come true, which it is, but actually the realities of it is a bit, can be a bit of a nightmare, and it's incredibly complex, and you have all these moving parts, and one of the worst things is you get so many different opinions from so many different people. So what I'm trying to do is not come along as someone who tells you what to do on your land. What I want to say is, we need to work it out. You need to be able to feel what the good decision is. You want to know, and you want to understand why you're making that decision. So that's why I call it the women's intuitive landscape design, is because we do know. We have done this for millions of years. We do understand, and it's our very whether it's commercial things that are getting in the way, but there are these barriers that have been set up that we have to gradually, piece by piece, take away in order for us to connect deeply with land and make good decisions. And when you do that, and when you're in a very biodiverse environment, there is an energetic resonance in that you can actually feel palpably inside you. And and it's actually making my hair stand on just thinking about that, tapping into that now. But that's what I want people to feel, be able to feel.
Wow. I got a comment. I don't know if you know the ladies, Laura Marjorie Miller. She says so many good substantial in this this discussion. Good, Nick.
Hi,
So
Laura.
it was good. Thank you, Laura,
Thank you.
for engaging
Yeah.
with us. For example, just I don't know many women in Italy, but I know that definitely there are a lot of youngsters, so very young people, especially boys in Italy around the 18th, that they are 18-25. So some of them, they go to university to study, I don't know in English how you say agraria, so basically how to rural approach, and of course it's a proper degree to make sure that you know exactly the season and what the minerals and everything. So I'm very ignorant in the subject, but I know that there is so much now in this young, and they are so. I would say, as we're talking about the conventional, we're talking before about style. We associate, people working the farm and not looking after themselves, looking after more the land, and I think also that has changed, because if you look after yourself, you can look after the land, and the approach with the style. That means, also making sure that you are not wearing only the clothes to be in the land, which are comfortable, and sometimes they make you dirty, because you need to work with the soil, with the water splashing everywhere, or the, I don't know in English how you call when you need to verderame, so when you need to give all the substances to make sure the fertilizers basically, and stuff like that. And that to me is, I say to myself sometimes, this is very, very reassuring. So making, seeing youngsters, the earth and the soil of the earth in the hands of new generations for the future, that is very inspiring, reassuring at the same time, because I think, there is a lot to do, and people that they have their feel the responsibility to do in the right way is really, really reassuring.
Absolutely, yeah. It's actually really difficult for young people to get access to land. So certainly here in the UK, the land prices are just it's impossible. So so perhaps there's a generational farming element, and people can take on stuff. But actually, what we need is more people back on the land, because as part of a less industrial agricultural approach means that we need more people. We need more people back on the land, and this mustn't be seen as not a valuable work. In fact, if you imagine a 40-hour week, and maybe lots of people do more than 40 hours a week, but say that's a standard. Imagine if we were able to do a 20-hour week, and then we did 10 hours in a community garden, for example, and that contributed to some sort of credit that gave us, it gave us food security, and it totally got us off our computers and de-stressed us. So the way we run our society is not set in stone. It doesn't have to be like this, and I think it is important to just shake that up a bit and be a bit imaginative on how we would really like our society to be.
All right, thank you very much. It's very, as I said, inspiring and reassuring in the hands of women that they want to make sure that the future is present in order to survive these difficult times. So where we can find you? Are you active on social media?
I'm not as active as I should be. I have my own website, which is nickviney, nickviney.co.uk, and I will be launching, and everything pretty much sits on there. I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, actually. And yeah, so the Wilder movement will be launching on there, and hopefully I will get better at social media, because I'm going to study you, Mariana, and try and get some tips off you, because you're a genius.
So kind. It will be fun. And yeah, and also you've been nominated today the Wow Woman of the Week. So
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you.
You have such an inspirational woman, and you do with such humbleness, but in the meantime I can see all the value behind that, the hard work in terms of making sure that what you do, the message you get across, and serving others through your expertise and knowledge, that is really, really valuable. So thank you for what you're doing. And maybe we can organize something in your land. It would be great.
Yeah. I've got this thing, you'll laugh at this, I've got this thing coming up in July the 12th, 11th and 12th, I think it is, and it's called Only Art and Beaver Will Save Us. And it's basically taking native species from the UK and going to a place called Rewald in Coombs Head, and seeing those species and these incredible animals, storks and wildcats and water voles, and then doing creative stuff with that, and certainly around where the beavers are just creating, water heaven and water security, then they are a big focus of our work. So so that's a fun thing. Only Art and Beaver Will Save Us.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, Nick. It was lovely talking to you, and I'm sure we are going to talk soon here at Wow Voices Speak Volumes. So thank you for in the meantime, and best of luck for tomorrow.
Thanks, Mariana. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.